You'll find the 4 stages of the locust army written of in Joel chapter 1 verse 4, and if you have a companion Bible, that's on page 1225, where Bullinger breaks verse 4 back to the Hebrew as gnawer, swarmer, devourer, and consumer, bearing in mind that 4 is the number of earth, and that as we know from Revelation chapter 9, the locust army don't physically kill people, are only here for 5 months, and as it's written in Joel chapter 2 verse 8, when they fall upon the sword, they shall not be wounded. That's supernatural. If a human being falls on a sword, they're going to be wounded. So that tells you right there the criteria of the actual locust army. They're only here for 5 months, they don't physically kill people, and when they fall upon the sword, they shall not be wounded. That's supernatural. So the actual 4 stages of the actual locust army, not the type, but the actuality, do not begin until the 5-month-long hour of temptation begins, at the woe of the 5th trumpet. And it's also written in Joel chapter 2, this time in verse 5, that like the noise of chariots on the tops of mountains shall they leap, which also parallels Revelation chapter 9 as well, where it reads in verse 9 that the sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots, which just means a vehicle of many horses running to battle. We see it again in Isaiah chapter 5 verse 28, where it says, their horses' hoofs shall be counted like flint, and their wheels like a whirlwind. So we're not talking about literal horses and chariots, but rather highly polished spectrum metal vehicles these evil angels will arrive in. Now it isn't known that we'll see these vehicles at that time, but that could very well be how the one world political system comes together so quickly at the woe of the 5th trumpet. Government by emergency in the event of a so-called extraterrestrial threat, which has been mentioned several times. 2 different former presidents have said that such an event, a so-called alien invasion, would bring about instant world peace, and with world peace comes a one world political system. But it won't happen until the woe of the 5th trumpet. It might not happen this way, this is a theory, but it very well could. A world government would come together very quickly if everyone thought there was a so-called alien invasion, only they're not aliens, they're Satan's angels, who don't literally have wings, but rather flying dish-shaped vehicles, their wheels like a whirlwind, like we saw in Isaiah chapter 5. So that brings us to the speculation about how it would play out if it were to happen that way. First, the gnawer, which by definition in English, if you look up the word in English as an idiom, a figure of speech, means persistent and wearing distress or anxiety. So say hypothetically these vehicles arrive on Earth but just hover in the air at first, not making known to the peoples of the world their intention. The whole world goes into panic mode and it gnaws at them, so to speak, in a very intense way. Think about it. The governments of the world come together and the first beast has come into being with the supernatural element on Earth at that time, which is Daniel's 4th beast, Satan and his angels becoming part of this new global government, the first beast of Revelation chapter 13, but maybe that won't be publicly announced at that time, but rather agreed to in either a closed-door meeting or through some sort of radio telecommunication between Satan and his angels, including those 10 fallen angel kings and the world leaders, who at the woe of the 5th trumpet will have become the lion, the bear, and the leopard of Daniel chapter 7, with the 4th beast being the supernatural, because Satan must confirm the covenant at this time with many for 1 week, which was 7 years, but again, has been shortened to a 5-month period. This all may be done without it being explained to the public, but think about it. Even if it were explained to the public in some twisted, deceptive way, people won't know what to believe, and so the gnawing continues, especially with the weekend warrior Christians who never got around to studying their Father's Word. And this is how the torment of the locust army is like the torment of a scorpion, slowly dissolving their backbone, which is supposed to be your foundation, but being ignorant of God's Word, they begin to question their faith, persistent or wearing distress or anxiety, the gnawer. Next comes the swarmer, and in this case, the way we're looking at this would be a swarm of theories, a swarm of bad ideas to explain what's happening, with so-called scientists on every news channel telling people these are the ancient aliens, quote-unquote, that seeded the planet, and so on, swarming the minds of the unlearned Christian masses who are the target of this deception, who start to doubt what little of God's Word they do know, And this is lining them up for the spiritual kill as these UFOs, as they're called, continue to hover silently in the air. Maybe. This is hypothetical conjecture. You have to understand that. Hypothetical conjecture of what may possibly happen. You can read more about the first 2.5 months of the hour of temptation, the first half hour, that is to say, in Daniel chapter 11, verses 21 through 30. But here we're speculating on what could happen during that time based on what we know so far. Next is the devourer stage of the locust army, as in devouring false information, and therefore the truth is devoured. Again, what little truth from our Father's Word that was in their forehead. The biblically illiterate Christian is having their backbone dissolved with the deception as a scorpion devours its prey, slowly and in stages, and it's around this time, the devourer stage, that the deadly wound to the one world political system most likely occurs, after which Satan appears in Jerusalem as Antichrist, which means instead of Christ in the Greek, probably appearing with his fallen angels, imitating the second coming in the fourth and final stage, the consumer stage, as in to waste and burn away. To perish is the definition of consume from the Merriam-Webster dictionary as an intransitive verb. In other words, this is when the son of perdition, Satan himself, appears in Jerusalem, and that third are killed spiritually by the fire, smoke, and brimstone which issues out of the mouths of Satan's locust army, the fallen angels. And it's at that time that the great apostasy occurs, and believe it or not, most Christians will receive that mark of the beast in their forehead, which is the deception that Christ has returned. And think about it, beloved, only a Christian can die spiritually because they were the only ones on their way to heaven to begin with. Christ is the only way to the Father.